on the air, and then I'm gonna. Okay, we are broadcasting. Okay, learn more. Whoops, don't want that. Stuart Yoshida, where are we? Okay. Okay, let me just type something here. I'm gonna go, hi everyone. Let's say aloha. Aloha, everyone. We're on the air. So this is the part that I'm not as good at is the YouTube stuff. I can't multitask as well as some people. Window, get back to, all right, here we go. Aloha, patrons and listeners. This is Stuart Yoshida, host of the OokTown Podcast, where we talk about all things ukulele. And this is a special podcast on ukulele podcasting. So we'll see where it goes. I'm still going to try and keep it real and talk about stuff that you guys would want to hear, not just if you're a podcaster or not. I hope you find that even if you're not even if you don't want a podcast, I hope you find this interesting and take away a few nuggets from this. I want to bring on my first guest here, who is Jody Lee. Jody, welcome to the show.
Hi, Stuart.
It's great to have you on the show. I met Jody. Well, let's see. I think you contacted me first, and then I met you in person at the Wonderstruck Academy. Is that how it worked?
That's exactly how it worked. And it was
Wow.
like meeting a star.
So people say that. I'm like, really? I don't see it that way. But hey, thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for being on the show. For all of those people wondering where my intrepid co-host is, Doug Brown is doing the last day or second to, actually, I think this is the last day of the National Western Stock Show, which is really jam-packed. So later on in the show, if he was going to show up, I was going to talk to him about all the things happening today, like the stock dog trials, intermediate dog competition, junior breeding sheep show, draft horse, NASMA mule and donkey show. So it's stuff like that. And I was going to talk to him about it. So that's what he's doing. He's making sure all the sound is working properly there. All right. Before we get into the topic today, we got so much to go over. Especially, let's just start off with the shout outs. First of all, I want to give a shout out again to Toby, who asked me a while ago about this 15-year-old prodigy we saw at Wonderstruck. And Jody, I think you might remember her, right?
She was unforgettable.
Yeah. We were just everyone, my jaw dropped. I was sitting next to Mike Hind. I'm just like, what? Are you kidding me? So I didn't get her name, and I finally, but even at that, because she was only 15, I want to make sure that one of her parents was okay with us. Well, it turns out what was okay with me announcing her name and giving a shout out and all that. It turns out she already has a website with music on it. Her name is Julia Kirkwood, and I'm gonna put a link in the show notes to her website. There's some of her music on there, and you can hear just how amazing she is on there. And I was just just awed by when she started playing and singing. It sounded so great. It's like, man, that is, even the sound of her ukulele was incredible, and her vocals, and then her original song was just blew me away. Yeah. What did you think, Jody?
I feel like she just came. I didn't even know she was in the room until she got up to perform, because she hadn't participated in, I don't think, any of the instruction we'd all received. Clearly, she didn't need it. But as the day had progressed, I hadn't heard her speak. I mean, I'd seen her like on the breaks, but I hadn't really related to her in any way. And then she got up to do the open mic part of the workshop, which was the very end of the evening.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we were all literally like blown back in our seats, wondering where did she come from?
Yeah.
Where, who is that person? She was
Yeah.
just amazing. And the whole room, when you're in a room of people that are being amazed and delighted en masse, like you all feel that energy. And I mean, that's what we're all looking to create. And
Right.
she just has it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know what? I did a rookie mistake. We've been talking for a while, and I forgot to hit the record button.
It says live on my side.
It is. It's recording live on YouTube. So what I might have to do is I might have to grab that part, the first part,
Okay.
from YouTube.
Or we can do it again. Doesn't matter to me.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's see. Six or one half dozen. All right. Let's try it again. It'd be easier for me, but oh
Listen, I
well.
want to make your life easier. As a person who has her own podcast, I understand.
Oh, that was such a rookie mistake. I cannot believe that. So all you people out there, you just saw what happened.
You saw the realness of podcasting.
Yeah, all right. You did. Okay, let's start over again. Now it's recording. I can see it on my screen here. All right. Here we go. Aloha, patrons and listeners. This is Stuart Yoshida, host of the OokTown Podcast, where we talk about all things ukulele. And for those of you who didn't watch the live broadcast, this is actually my mulligan here because I started the podcast and I forgot to hit record. So we're kind of redoing this here. Hopefully, it'll sound just as spontaneous and fun as when we first started. All right. Well, first off, I wanted to bring on a guest that was contacted me at first, and then I met her in person at the Wonderstruck Academy. If you see my shirt here, you can see part of that. This is from the Wonderstruck Academy that was run by Danielle Ate the Sandwich and Victor and Penny, aka Aaron and Jeff. So with that, I want to bring on Jody Lee. She is a first-time guest on the OokTown Podcast. Jody, welcome.
Thank you. Hey, y'all.
Hey, and you actually have your own podcast, although not necessarily ukulele. Although I did see that isn't one of your upcoming shows going to have something to do with ukulele or something? Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your show here? What show do you have?
My show is called Barista Unfiltered. I've been drinking coffee since I was in my 20s, and I think some of the most interesting people are behind the bar serving up coffee drinks. And in our days, we have community centers that are formalized, like rec centers, but these are places where people either, take a class that they're interested in, or, they go to work out. There's no like off the cuff, like community
Mm-hmm.
jam happening necessarily in these community centers we have. And I think that independent coffee shops, especially, but also Starbucks and any other chains, really do cultivate sort of that third space.
Mm-hmm.
So not work, not home, but a place where you can just gather and mix with the people that live in the same area that you do, or might be visiting the same place that you're in. And
Yeah.
so baristas are really these people that are like holding that space for the
Yeah.
people that they serve. And so they're fascinating people because they know what's going on in a town. And when I travel, that's the first thing I do.
Interesting.
Go to a
You,
coffee shop and get to know people.
you know what? Because in England they have pubs, but we don't really have
Mhm.
pubs. And it seems like maybe the baristas serve, or the coffee shops there serve a little bit of that purpose, because that's where people just gather to converse and have a drink, right?
It's exactly how it is.
How interesting. I never thought of that. Are you a barista, by the way?
No,
Okay.
I've
I was
never been a
wondering.
barista.
All right. I was, for some reason, I was assuming, because when you were talking on the show, I was thinking, now, how come she's not talking about barista stuff per se, like how to brew coffee or something?
We
I
try
was,
to we try to hit that if we're talking to a particularly nerdy barista,
oh,
but
okay.
a lot of baristas are like I could just think of one example: a mom who needs a little bit of money and wants to get out of the house a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and the kids go to daycare. The husband is at work making most of the salary, and she is working in the coffee shop, sort of as a way to meet people and be an active member of the community. So she's got a mom story, she's got a work story, she's got a
Mm,
family story. And so that's how most baristas are. They're people in transition from one thing to another.
okay. And that's what you mainly talk about then on that show is the barista. You bring on a barista and you talk about kind of the community and things like that.
We talk about whatever they want to talk about.
Okay.
So I come up with like a list of 10 questions, things that I'm naturally curious about this person
Yeah.
or where they live. And then I let them look at the questions and give me more or edit or delete. And we always start the show with, what are you drinking right now? Like, what's your morning coffee? And then
Mm-hmm.
you'd be surprised, like, how many different ways people have their coffee.
Mm. Well, I can imagine that. I mean, you know, I like a good French press myself,
Hmm.
if I can. Well, very cool. We'll talk a little bit more about your show later on. I first though, before we get into that, I want to go through some shout outs because there's quite a few of them. First, I want to give a shout out to Toby again. I mentioned him a couple shows ago because he asked about this 15-year-old prodigy we saw at Wonderstruck, and I didn't want to. Well, first of all, I didn't get her name, and second, she was 15, so I wanted to make sure that it was okay with one of her parents to uh, mention her name. Well, it turns out that she has a website already, but I didn't realize that. I did get a hold of her mom through uh, Danielle and Aaron and Jeff, aka Victor and Penny. And she said, "Yeah, for sure. Go ahead." And so, without further ado, this amazing 15-year-old phenom that we saw at Wonderstruck, her name is Julia Kirkwood. And I'm going to put a link in the show notes to her website. So, yeah, check her out. Go over there, listen to some of her music. I can't wait for her to release a fully produced CD or EP, whatever it is, because yeah, she's pretty amazing. And Jody, you were at that same Wonderstruck Academy, and maybe you can give some of your thoughts too about her.
Yeah, she blew us all away. She sort of saved herself for the end of the workshop, which was a volunteer performance and an open mic night where we could all practice things like how to sing into a microphone and how to get your ukulele close to a mic and how to address the crowd, that kind of thing. And she just got up there with all of this just raw talent.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all blown back into our seats over it. The collective room was, jaw gaping,
Yeah,
amazed.
yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
was sitting next to Mike Hine, who's been on the show, and I just turned to him. I said, "Are you kidding me?" And the person next to me, she was verklempt, and so she had to leave the room for a while before because her performance was next, and she said, "I've got to leave the room for a while." I was like, "Yeah, I can understand. That was amazing." Yeah, it's always great to find someone like that. And she seems pretty quiet, and she does know how to perform. I think I think I'm pretty sure she learned some things too, though, at the workshop. Um, and I also think that she's definitely on her way, and I hope she continues on this path. Whether she just records an album or CD or an EP, that would be great because yeah, pretty amazing. All right, so that was for Toby. Thanks, Toby, for bringing that up. I also want to give a shout out to John Campbell from Australia, a good old Aussie. Mahalo for contacting me and suggesting a guest. And I don't know if when it'll be appropriate, but anyway, I appreciate you guys when you contact me. Any kind of email or whatever, tweet at me. And then there's John Campbell recommended Jeffrey Thomas. Thanks to Jeffrey for sending me an arrangement of Brandy, You're a Fine Girl, which, by the way, I played the other night. And so I put that earworm in everyone's ear that night, and I'm sure they're cursing me out and singing Brandy all day.
They're probably still singing it.
Still, yeah. And I had them do the call and response, where it's, Brandy, you're a fine girl, you're a fine girl, such a fine girl, that kind of thing. And Rose from Ukulele Highway, another podcaster. We'll get you on the show. Sorry you couldn't make it. She's on a flight right now. She did send us some topics, so she's sort of virtually going to be present. And then finally, Mike and Caroline. I hope everything went well, Mike. They couldn't make it. I invited them. They're podcasters also. They're part of Unplug the Wood over in England. Would love to have you guys on the show sometime. We'll try and get that one of these days going. And let's see. I think that is it.
Is Unplug the Wood another ukulele podcast?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And they kind of they have people come on the show, and it's kind of they either have topics or they interview people, so it's a slightly different format. So which is good. We can talk about that, kind of what kind of formats that we like to do. And I kind of like this format because it's not too many people do it. And it just seems to suit me, which is, where I'll have a guest and we kind of have a free form discussion versus a guest that I interview for a certain, I don't know what you want to call it, but like if I brought on Jake Shimabukuro, I would be interviewing on his take on this and that. And, it's mainly about his career and things like that. Whereas this is more open-ended, I guess. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
All right. Well, so let's get into it. And let's see if Doug sent me anything else. I believe Doug is still busy at the National Western Stock Show, which we'll go over his schedule at the very end if we have any time left. Yeah, he said we will see. Nothing more of that. All right. Let's talk about some things from Rose from Ukulele Highway. And she kind of starts off with just giving the background, which is good since you're the first time on guest here. Jody, when did you start playing ukulele?
Just last December, so December of 2016. I've only been playing for a little over a year. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 2017. So I've been playing over a year.
All right. Yeah. And then you had this idea, which we're going to put in a link in here, the paddle and strum. How did you think of that? Right. Why don't you tell us what that paddle and strum is and how did you come up with that?
The website is paddleandstrum.com. It kind of sounds like the title of that U2 album from the 90s, Rattle and Hum.
Oh, is that where you got that from? All right. Yeah, okay. I can see that.
But anyway, like a lot of great ideas that I have, and I have lots of great ideas. I don't have enough lifetime to manifest them all. But this one just hunted me down. So I would wake up and I would just think about it every morning, every night. I had bought a paddleboard. I guess my birthday was September of 2017. I got a paddleboard and I paddle like crazy. So I do hundreds of miles. In just a couple of months, I go out to the Union Reservoir in Longmont or the Boulder Reservoir. And every time I'm out there, I'm paddling about 5 to 6 miles a trip. So I go a couple times a week and I just love it. Right now, I can't go because the water is frozen.
It's a little cold, sure.
It's a little cold, but you'd be surprised the days I'm out there. I'm usually by myself. But anyway, I had purchased a Waterman ukulele, which I know you've been curious about because you mentioned it on your podcast. They're plastic ukuleles. Made by Kala. And I bought one of those and I would paddle myself out on a windy day to the middle of the water.
But not with the Waterman, I hope.
Not with the Waterman, with the paddle. And then when I got to the center point or as far as I wanted to go against the wind, I'd turn around, sit down on my board and just strum all the way back to the water's edge. And so I'm actually on the paddleboard.
Strumming, but then how do you are you just being pushed by the wind or how do you really?
Yes. The wind is at your back and you're going to naturally drift back to where you started.
Oh, wow.
Calculate it. But anyway, so there I am singing like, don't worry, be happy, or you are my sunshine, or just something so simple. And I'm floating while it's happening. And I'm thinking, this is as good as life gets. This right here, this is it. And why am I not sharing this? Why am I not letting others experience this.
Yeah.
So I already have jobs. I don't need another job. And and, and this Palindrome thing kept coming to me like every morning, every night. If I had 2 minutes of quiet, it was sort of bugging me. And I thought, well, I'll just call Rocky Mountain Paddleboard because that's the real stumbling block is getting the paddle boards.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought,
Yeah.
okay, I'll leave a voicemail and no one will ever call me back and then it'll be done, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, a human answered. And I
It's
said,
always
okay.
surprising.
Yeah, I was like, "Hi, Victoria. This is Jody, and I think I need to be told the word no. So I'm going to start talking, giving you this crazy idea, and as soon as you're done with me, just say no and hang up. You're under no obligation to be nice to me." And she's like, "I want to say yes now." And I said, "Oh gosh, no. The word is no." So I said, paddleboard lessons, ukulele lessons, let's bring them together. You provide the paddle boards, I provide the ukuleles. She said, yes. And I said, the word is no. And she said, yes. And that's how it
So
happened.
where'd you get the ukuleles?
That's a
Are
great
those?
question. So I contacted the Denver Folklore Center
Mm.
first and
Yeah,
hoped that they would sort of partner with me, but they really couldn't come down on their price in a way that made it feasible for me to purchase the ukuleles that I
sure,
needed to. And I
sure.
understood that. So then I called Kala because I thought, well, I'll just be my own.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll
yeah.
be my own store, and it doesn't work that way. They want you to have a storefront, and they want you to show more than just their watermen. You know, they have a lot
Oh,
of nice ukuleles, and
yeah,
so
they do.
they want you to promote all of their business. So the representative at Kala said, well, you can't be your own vendor, but there's this really nice guy up in Longmont. You should give him a call. And he knew Larry. Larry's had a guitar shop for about as long as Longmont's been
Mm,
in business at all.
okay.
And his shop is on Fifth Avenue downtown Longmont. And Larry is about the nicest person you'll ever
So
meet.
what's the store name or his
Larry's
name?
Guitars.
Larry's Guitars. Cool.
Yeah. So nice. And so I went up there and met him and I said, I need these ukuleles, but I mean, I need them pretty much at cost. And he worked with me and made me such a great deal that it made my business happen. And so he
Wow.
started putting Watermans. He ordered a few on my order.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and then he started selling them like crazy.
No
So
kidding.
yeah,
See,
yeah.
it all worked out. It's a win-win.
Totally. And I send as many people as I can to his shop. He's such a nice
Oh,
person.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And so that is what you do. So do you lend them the ukuleles and then when they want to buy one, you just send them over to Larry's, or what do you do?
Yeah, so I had to purchase 30 ukuleles to get free shipping.
Wow.
I know.
Oh.
So I bought all 30 ukuleles and I kept 15 of them in boxes and 15 of them like got them ready, got them tuned, put some
Mm-hmm.
straps on them. And
Mm.
so the way it would work is people would show up for the paddleboard lesson. I would say hello and memorize all their names. And then Rocky Mountain Paddleboard would take over at that point and teach them the basics of how to stand on a board. And then I would tell them, you're going to go out and then you're going to hear a whistle. And when you hear the whistle, come to me and we'll put your boards like right on the water's edge. If you want to float, you can, but if you want to, be anchored and have your feet on
Yeah.
the ground, you can.
Yeah.
And then I would present them each with a lei, an aloha,
Mm-hmm.
a komomai, and then
Yeah.
give them a ukulele to play for the hour. And so they would learn two songs, and the sun would set behind the Rockies as we're singing. And
Ah.
at the end of the night, they could purchase one of my 15 ukuleles to take home, or I would plug them
Yeah.
in to all of the ukulele like community organizations that there are here.
Great.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So that is a very cool business model. So they would learn how to paddleboard and then come back in, and then you would teach them ukulele. Is
And
that
then they had,
basically?
yeah, and then they had another 30 minutes afterwards. They could stay with me if they were really loving the ukulele, and some of them did.
Mm-hmm.
If they didn't want to paddle too far on the way back, 30 minutes
Oh.
for a beginner is sometimes a lot for a paddleboard. It's
Okay.
a
Yeah.
it's a
I
core body workout. So
absolutely. I can imagine that.
yeah, so if they wanted to hang out with me and just play, they could. Or if they wanted to return their paddleboard, and take another 30-minute run, they could do that.
Wow.
We're yeah, Rocky Mountain Paddleboard was great to work with, and we all just made it whatever the person wanted, you know.
Cool. Yeah, that's a pretty nifty way to teach ukulele. So how's that going? Are you going to continue that? What do you
Yeah, I think I'll do that forever.
really? All right.
Yeah, I would love to get a gig. Like, I have these ideas of maybe being in Florida during the winter, because winters
Mm-hmm.
are hard on me. I do not like all that snow and wind and cold weather we got here. So I would like to be in Florida, like when the big tourist boom is going on,
Okay.
and teaching the paddleboard ukulele lessons like on the west coast of Florida for a few months a year.
I think that's pretty unique. I don't know of too many people that are doing that. Although I've never researched it, I'm just going to guess.
I researched it and
Uh-huh.
could not find a soul. Even in Hawaii, I could not find anyone doing this. Now, there
Nice.
are a couple groups of paddlers in Hawaii who play their paddle boards on their personal kayaks, like a ukulele
Okay.
group that kind of goes out on water and meets, and
Mm-hmm.
they play
Mm-hmm.
that way, but no one that's teaching ukulele on paddle boards.
Mm.
If it exists, I would love to know that person.
And you're gonna stick with the ukulele and leave the paddleboard part to someone else. Is that it, or are you eventually gonna do both?
I could do both, but I like the idea of working with another organizations. And a lot of
Yeah.
paddleboard companies are totally open to this because a lot of them have yoga instructors
Oh,
on
is that
staff.
right? Do they do
Yeah,
yoga on paddleboards too? Oh, you're kidding.
absolutely.
Oh man.
Absolutely. So they're already used to this idea of having an independent contractor come in and teach a
Yeah.
class using their equipment.
Wow, that's a great idea. Well, I hope best of luck to you, and we'll put your paddle and strum link in the show notes. I think we already had it once before, but we'll put it again, obviously. Um, all right, let's go back to what else did Rose have? Boop, 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 where am I? She kind of had when and why did you start podcasting? Because yeah, the theme for the show is basically around podcasting and ukulele, a little of both. Um, oh, which by the way, are you thinking of? Sounds like you're thinking of doing a show, which will feature ukulele. And what is that?
Yes.
What are you gonna do? Because I can't remember right now for some reason.
Well, at the beginning of every show, there's ukulele, because I play a song as our intro, and I don't have it recorded, so it doesn't sound near as good as your intro song, Stuart. But it's just a little, like, I don't know, a couple bars of a tune I really love. And so you get like live ukulele, like the
Mm-hmm.
minute you tune in to Barista
Right.
Unfiltered. But I'm also in the Rocky Mountain Ukulele Orchestra here in
Yeah.
Denver. And because of that, I've had the great fortune to meet Gary Ugert. We've
Yep.
had him on the show before.
You bet.
And he's such a nice guy. I can't even say enough wonderful things about him. But we were trying to get him a thank you note and collect some money just to tell him how much we appreciate all his instruction last semester. And I said, well, he's always drinking Starbucks. Shouldn't we just buy him like a Starbucks card instead of a gift card to a restaurant in Denver?
Okay. Yeah.
And my friend beside me, who's known Gary longer, goes, oh no, he's worked in Starbucks forever. I think like he's got some sort of deal with them. We don't want to get him a Starbucks card. And I was like, what? He's a barista? He's a former barista? I got to have him on my show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I bugged him enough and wore him down. And so he's going to be on my February 7th show.
So he is a barista?
He was.
He was. All right.
Yes. And he's like many people, he's very modest about his, his involvement with being a barista. But it turns out he was one of the earliest baristas when Starbucks, the corporation, was really taking hold.
Oh, you're kidding.
It's gonna be an amazing show.
So he was like he's the OG barista, as they would say.
Yes, exactly. We're gonna get
Wow.
into it. I don't know all the stories because I don't like to know all the stories
Right.
before I hit record. I'm like you. I like to have it happen off the cuff.
Yeah, the spontaneity is fun. Oh, okay, good. That's what the connection is. So yeah, you can talk about the intersection there of barista and ukulele. Well, he yeah he's very cool in that he started the Rocky Mountain Ukulele Orchestra, which was kind of, I think, inspired by probably the Ukulele Orchestra of Great Britain.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of took it in terms of, it's more instead of a continuing professional group, it's amateurs, but he recruits them from the local community, and they practice. I mean, you can tell more about it, right?
Yeah, I
What you
mean,
guys do.
you're describing it very well. It is very welcoming to newbies, and I had only I only knew how to play C, F, and G when I joined.
Uh-huh.
That's how welcoming it is. So the way Gary's got it organized, you have large ensemble pieces, and we do maybe 8 or 9 of those for a 2-hour show, and the rest of the show is filled in by these smaller group performances. And he is in charge of the people who are newest to the orchestra. He kicks you out after 2 semesters. So
Mm-hmm.
you got to get what you can get from him in that first year you're in the orchestra, because we have a fall and a spring show. And then after that, he encourages you to get out into another pod, is what he calls them. He calls them pods, the small group ensembles, and
Oh,
mix with
okay.
other people in the orchestra. But it's
Mm-hmm.
brilliant, because if you're like me and I didn't know how to read music,
Mm-hmm.
you show up at this orchestra rehearsal and everybody's reading music. And in Gary's small pod, he walks you through one piece that you practice for 30 minutes every Monday, and it is your song for the small
Mm-hmm.
ensemble piece of the concert. And he is walking you through, what is a quarter note, and how does this uke tab work, how do I read
Mm-hmm.
this, how does it translate, how long do I
Yeah.
hold this note, so and it's a small group of maybe 30 people that are new each time, and you're getting direct interaction with the conductor.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of are n- um, getting instruction there, but they have the large ensemble too. Do they still have that? I'm assuming they
Yes.
do.
Yes.
Okay.
That's so you spend about 30 minutes in your small group at the beginning of
Mm-hmm.
rehearsal, and then you spend the next the last hour of rehearsal being in the big ensemble.
Oh, okay. And then, but then after a certain amount of time, you're kind of, no, you could still join the bigger ensemble, right? But you're kicked out of the seminar part of it, and then you join a smaller group. Is that how it works?
Well, see,
Then.
even when you're a newbie, you're permitted to join the orchestra.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even though I knew nothing about playing ukulele, and I had called Gary and said, a lot of times I have to call people and say, I need to be told no. And I called Gary and said that, and he said, I never tell anyone no. He
Yeah.
said, you get to come and try it as much as you can stand it. And he said, if you keep showing up, you're probably going to do fine. And that's how encouraging he is with everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
he was right. I practiced like crazy, and I learned how to be a good member of the large ensemble
Okay.
right from the
And
beginning. Yeah.
okay. So yeah, he's still keeping that, and I think that's great. Um, and we've got such a variety of ukulele opportunities here. You can do the Denver ukulele community, you can do the Rocky Mountain Ukulele Orchestra. You got the Bug over in Boulder, the Boulder
Mm-hmm.
Ukulele Group up in Fort Collins. There's Fort Uke, and then even the church I go to, they just started a ukulele group, um, which I, I kind of planted the seed there, and it's really cool that someone else, uh, that they started it on their own, because I'm not a real big, you know, um, organizing, recruiting kind of guy, right? I can give instruction. You bring me in, I'll do a workshop, I'll do that and this. Um, I have a harder time, uh, which I did this before, a harder time like promoting and organizing the workshop itself. It's really nice when someone else does it and I just walk in and do it. Kind of like the paddleboard a little bit, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Absolutely.
then that they do the hard work of the sales and promotion, although I'm sure you do a great job too.
Well, adding ukulele to your paddleboard company is exciting for everybody who's been coming and paddling and
Mm-hmm.
maybe wants to do something a little different on it.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's good for them too to have an exciting offering, something new.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think I'm just going through Rose's things. So we talked a little bit. Oh, so I started and I've told this story before, but when as far as my own ukulele experience, I've started. I don't know now. It's 15 years ago or more. I played guitar forever, since I was in high school, and when I got out to Colorado, um, I was going home because I'm from Hawaii, and I said, you know what? I don't know why, but I had this thing. I'm gonna get an ukulele, just to kind of show my Hawaiian roots. And so I went and found this luthier over on the Big Island in the Kohala Mountains in this town called Hawi, and he made me this beautiful. It's I don't quite have it handy. I should have had it, but anyway, it's a beautiful ukulele, tenor ukulele, made of spruce and hardwood sides, Kiawe sides, and never played a ukulele before. And then a friend of mine said, Chris Kennison said, "Hey, let's form a Hawaiian band." And then the rest is history, where we played Hawaiian music. And then I basically switched over to playing ukulele full time. And then what was it? Maybe, wow, 2000, was it 2011? So that's like 7 years ago coming up. It'll be 8 years in March. I recruited a couple friends of mine, Doug Brown and EP Davis, and then we started the OokTown Podcast. And or I did, and I dragged them into being my guests on the show.
Stuart, I'm so glad you did. When I first got involved with playing the ukulele, I, of course, went to podcasts immediately. And I was like, who's talking about this?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many people can claim this, but I have listened to every episode of your podcast.
Wow.
And I devoured most of them in the first 4 months of 2018.
Nice.
Yes. And I learned so much. Half the time I had no idea what you guys were talking about.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things like, if you want to get warm, go get close by the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So that over time, I've understood more and more of what you're talking about. So a lot of times you guys are pushing me forward, like helping me learn something new.
Well, that's so good to hear. And, I don't, I don't promote this podcast as like bringing you up to soup to nuts, which is why I'm so glad that there's other podcasts where well, first of all, there's some incredible videos out there. So the story here is that, I tried to do instructional videos at first, and I spent a whole bunch of time and effort and, a bit of money on doing all of this. I should have, although I should have done some research first, because then, you go out there and and then I found the Ukulele Underground. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't compete with this guy. He's got the market sewed up. I mean, I just might as well just say, hey, why don't you go and watch the Ukulele Underground for a while? If you have any questions and want to take lessons from me, go ahead and talk to me. But wow, it's like, these guys are doing so incredible things, and that they're just the tip of the iceberg, right? So I was like, hey, just go out there, find these videos, because that's what's so amazing about YouTube, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's changed the face. I really believe YouTube has raised everyone's game, because now I can just go on YouTube and watch all these things, try it out. And then, I think that's perfect, because then you can go to an instructor and say, hey, I learned all this and I just had these questions, but at least you're not starting from ground zero, and you can practice on your own. It is amazing,
Yeah, you can repair your washer watching YouTube.
Exactly. I've literally done that too. Have you done that? Because
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. I called up our washer broke, and I called up the repair company, and he goes, "Oh, by the way, we'll come out, but we can't come out till Friday. Why don't you try this? And by the way, just go on YouTube and check this out." So I went on YouTube, checked it out. It was about, it was a pump filter,
Mm-hmm.
and sure enough, that fixed it. It's like, it's incredible.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I had to
That is too
replace
funny.
a circuit board too on my oven once. My oven and my washer went out like in the same 2 days, and YouTube saved me for both of
Wow.
them. That could have
Wow.
probably those repairs could have cost $1,000.
I know that this.
Yeah.
I'm sure the repair companies must understand this. They're probably a little bit maybe upset in some ways, because people are like saving so much money, you know?
I don't know that they're really that upset, because when you call a repair company, it's 4 or 5 days before they can get out. They must
Yeah,
be
that's
busy
true.
doing something.
You're right. You're right. And so they're glad to just tell you, hey, why don't you go to YouTube, try this out, and if it still doesn't work, give us a call.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right. Well, let's see. Keep on going down here. By the way, if you want to bring up something too that you wanted to definitely talk about, because I know you got your own list of stuff. Oh, we can talk about your Ohana. Let's talk about your Ohana, since she talks about equipment used, but we'll talk about in terms of ukuleles. You just got yourself a new Ohana pineapple. What was it? What did you get?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
pineapple.
beautiful.
Do you
I'll
have
show
it?
it to yeah, I'll show it
Let's
to our YouTube
hold on
watchers.
here. There we go. Wow, look at that binding on there.
Look at the abalone shells. Isn't that
Yeah.
gorgeous?
Wow. Now
Yes.
is that solid wood or laminate? What is that? Do you
No,
know?
it's solid. It's a spruce top and it's mahogany on the sides
Nice.
and back.
Yeah.
Gary sold it to me, and I've been looking at this ukulele so many places. I play it almost every time I'm in a ukulele store.
Really?
Yeah, and I thought, because it's a pineapple shape, it's just too silly, like for orchestra purposes.
Oh no, really? No, you can.
I didn't know there were no pineapples. Like, everybody's got like a really fancy K brand,
Yeah, but
ukulele, and
no, pineapple ukuleles are
It's
cool.
it's totally legit, apparently. So
Yeah.
as soon as Gary told me I could play this one, I said, "Well, my decision's made. I know I love that ukulele. I like the way it feels and fits, and the shell inlay is just."
Yeah.
I'm a big time shell collector. I'm a beachcomber in my spare
Okay.
time. Yeah,
Mm.
so I wanted shells on my ukulele. It's probably not the reason most people pick out their instrument, but for me, it was a big deal.
Oh, the binding's beautiful there. All
It's
right.
gorgeous.
Nice. So that was your upgrade.
Yes. Thanks,
Mm.
mom. Thanks, mother-in-law. I used my Christmas money to buy it.
Nice.
Yes.
See, that's what I like. As you get older, they just say, "Here, listen, we don't know what you want, so we'll just give you some Christmas money." Hey, I don't mind. I think that's great. Okay, so I will give a shout out to one guy that I follow on Twitter, and I've listened to a lot in terms of podcasting. Um, his name is Ray Ortega. He hosts a couple podcasts. One of them is called Podcaster Studio, and then the other one is Podcasters Roundtable. And hopefully I will put links. Put links. See, this is what happens when you don't have Doug, because Doug would be on the stick right now, getting the links. I have to do this later on, and I half the time I forget, so I got to write it down. Okay, Podcasters Roundtable.
They have
So
something like a 101 on that show
yeah,
that
that's a good.
really helps you a lot. Helps you with a lot of the big decisions about which microphone and how to record and all of that.
Yeah.
I use that.
Did you use that as a resource?
I did. I think you mentioned it. You did a show, well, I don't know when it was, but there was a show, I don't know when, about how to start a podcast. And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
listened to that and I took notes on it, and then did my own research, and
Mhm.
used a lot of the suggestions that you gave me, like buying this microphone, this ATR 2100.
Yeah.
That was totally your suggestion. And then when I read blogs, it was echoed. Everybody, promoted that
Yeah.
microphone.
I love that microphone. Even though I use this one's kind of like, you got your when you got your new Ohana
Mhm.
pineapple, that's kind of the same thing. I went and upgraded to the Hio PR40 because it's I think it's more of a status thing. You can definitely that ATR microphone is excellent. So you got
Yeah,
to
I've been really
you're all
happy
set.
with it.
Yeah, you're all set. So now you know how to use that and with your earbuds. There you go.
Yes. This is a lesson in the podcast.
Here's a good one. What do you hope listeners will get out of your podcast? All right. So we can talk specifics, but then we can also talk maybe meta, like for me, for example, I really hope people not only get good information, but want to spread the love of ukulele and get them to listen to the podcast, get them to show this podcast or recommend this podcast to other people, so it just kind of spreads, right? That's really what
Mhm.
I'm hoping for, because I really believe in the power of the ukulele and what it brings to people. Peace, love, and ukulele for sure.
I agree with you 1,000%. I think your podcast is extremely valuable for promoting the enthusiasm that occurs among people who play ukulele. That's evident in every episode you've ever produced.
Oh, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that, and that is so good to hear, because that's what I would want. And and for the barista part, what do you hope to do with that podcast?
Well, the main thing is, I've heard you reflect on this too, and a lot of people reflect on this. In our culture, we're so divided, and we like to think there's an us and a them, and that's absolutely not true. And what I want to do is collect enough stories from a broad spectrum of people that my listeners are absorbing different attitudes and different mindsets, different cultures, different interests, and seeing that we are all so much more alike than we are different.
Mm-hmm.
And so, any contribution I can make in the world right now that
Mm-hmm.
promotes that, I think is a valid use of my time.
No, that's great.
So
I think
that's
it's very worthwhile. There's a lot of people right now, talking about that. How divided we are, and that's one of the great things about the ukulele. Because with the ukulele, everyone that all disappears, and we've talked about this many times on the show, that's one of the powers of the ukulele. Um, cool. Let's see. This is interesting. She kind of goes into Rose goes into a lot on the. I can tell she's really getting into it, and like she's asking all these technical questions. How do you prep
yeah.
for each episode? What about post processing and promotion ideas? I do. I'm going to kind of pick and choose, but again, there's a lot. You can go to Podcasters Roundtable, Podcaster Studio, uh, dig into that. They'll have much more um, than I can say, but I'll just say, hey, my studio is a little atypical of other podcasters, because I also record my own music. And because of that, I have all this other equipment that people would not necessarily have. Like I've got a PV, 2-channel tube preamp. It's called the VMP2, and that's what I use as the preamp for this. I got the Heil PR40. That's overkill. I use a Apollo Twin for the interface to my computer. Again, that's probably overkill. So I have a atypical setup. So what do you use?
You have a lot of toys, is what
I
you
I
got.
do, but it's because of my other interest in recording
Yeah.
music. So
I had nothing when I started except a MacBook, and I use my AirPods. Sometimes I use my AirPods to record the audio and as a tool to reduce feedback. You need earbuds to do that.
that's a good idea.
So I get a two-in-one with that, and then I use YouTube to do the recording. So Stuart right now is recording us on something external that will become the audio podcast,
Right.
right? I
Mm-hmm.
don't do that. We did that for a while, and then I just got lazy and decided I wasn't going to do that. So we record we record through the Google Hangout, and then I just download that MP4 file
Yeah,
and
yeah.
convert it to an MP3 inside Audacity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we do it. I have very little. So when I'm traveling, like I'm from North Carolina, and I went home and grabbed a couple interviews from people there, I can do it on the run without a lot of fuss.
Yeah. Oh, I think this Google Hangout thing is pretty cool.
It's
Plus
amazing.
the video thing, it helps connect. I can't tell you how cool it's been since we started using the Google Hangouts, because then I can see people and we interact. It just feels more connected that way.
Yeah,
Uh,
my best friend was listening to our episode 1. My co-host is in San Francisco and I'm in Denver,
mhm.
and she was listening to it thinking out loud like, how how are they in the same place? Is he visiting? Is she visiting? And then she said she realized that I had said something about us being in different places. She said, it sounds like you're in the same room. And I said, I think that's the video because we can see each other's nonverbal
Mm-hmm.
sorts of output and respond like you're nodding right now. And
Yeah.
I don't even need to hear you say yeah to know you're agreeing with me and we're going to, continue.
Yeah. So I think that's, one thing if you want to take your podcast, it adds a little bit more um complexity. It's not as transparent, but I still think, I don't know. How was it for you setting up Google Hangouts and everything?
I struggled with which button to click on, and I think I sent you a message about that, and you just quickly like steered me in the right direction. The trouble with Google is that it changes all the time, right?
Yeah, I know. I hate that. Well, Skype did the same thing. Is like, I would get the Skype configuration all set, and it's like it was automated and and then all of a sudden it's a new version of Skype and I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. So I spend the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes trying to reconfigure everything. It drives me nuts.
I know.
All right.
So I
Sorry.
think if you struggle at all, if you're thinking about having a podcast of your own and you're struggling with these little things, like find somebody like Stuart or me or somebody who's already doing it and has figured out the riddles, and then just ask. Like just
Yeah.
it'll take us 2 minutes to answer you, and it'll save you hours of agony.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, she has one idea in here that I want to discuss with you is what are promotion ideas? And actually, I was thinking about sponsorship too. Patreon is a really wonderful way to do it, and I love that. I noticed that Unplug the Wood. I think he has a sponsorship with Ohana. Actually, I think, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought of that? Maybe getting sponsored by some local coffee shop or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's an idea, but I really modeled my podcast after yours. Like, I like
Uh-huh.
it to be spontaneous. Here's the thing, my husband had me listen to podcasts forever, like years ago, and I would listen to them and go, I hate this. I'm never going to listen to this
Oh,
show.
wow.
These shows are terrible. I'm not going to mention which shows they are, but they're very popular and they're like in the top 10. I'm like, these interviewers are interrupting their guests. They got 10 minutes worth of ads to begin with. That's wasting my time. Like, I just didn't find anything valuable enough to make me listen. And then I popped on to OokTown, and here's this laid back conversation about exactly what I want to learn.
Mhm.
And no big ads, just a hey guys, support the podcast on Patreon if you want to hear more of this. So
Yeah.
I'm a patron for OokTown because it's important to me. I want you to succeed. And I like that style. I like that this podcast is always going to be what you, Stuart, want it to be because there won't be any pressures for it to be
Yeah.
something different. And
Yeah.
that's how Austin, my co-host, and I feel about our podcast. We
Cool.
really want it to be organic and we want people to love it and support it.
I think that's a great idea, and it's kind of the same idea of these newer members of Congress who got instead of having big corporations sponsor their campaign to get elected, they did the micro contributions through the grassroots, and definitely, and who knows? I never want to be that beholden to anyone. I know. It's an interesting thing that I actually modeled my podcast on This Week in Tech, if you've ever listened to that. And that's uh Leo Laporte. But he had this really great conversational style. And I just said, oh, this would be great. And that's what I modeled it on. Now, his show, a lot more sponsors on there at the beginning, middle, and end. And by the way, I should do my spiel too at some point. See, I keep forgetting to do that. I'm terrible. I'm terrible in terms of that. That's why uh, uh, I need a. That's where Doug comes in and he texts me or something and says, "Did you mention Patreon yet?" Anyway,
Check your phone. Maybe he's texting you right now.
yeah. Did you? Yeah, he's telling me I should say. No, he looks like he's still busy at the one of the events here. There's Cowboy Church going on too, so who knows what he's doing. Anyway, where was I? Oh, promotion ideas. Anyway, yeah, I think one of the ideas that I always try and promote is a kind of a grassroots approach, but I encourage people at their own uh, ukulele group to mention the OokTown Podcast, and if they do, I'll mention it on the show, because I think that's the audience that I'm going after, is groups and people that really love the community of the ukulele, and that's where I want to reach them.
I also think that what we're doing today is important, like cross pollinating, basically. Your
Yeah.
audience is listening to me, my audience will be listening about you. I think that's a good way to do it too. And I see that like on the top 10 list of how to grow your podcasts organically on
Yes,
Google
is
Blogs.
and which I was going to talk about it, and we can talk about it now, but it's not as relevant, because although you're welcome to have me on your show, I'm just not a barista. I wish I was.
No, but I give you so much credit on my show. Um, I do. Like, this is all brought to you by Stuart Yoshida, I promise.
All right. Well, if you ever want to, again, this is great. If you ever want to have me on the show, just have me on with another barista, because I'm not a barista, but I'd be glad to join in.
All right, we'll do it.
Yeah, but that's another idea of promotion that I had, and that's why I wanted to kind of make this. Unfortunately, the stars didn't align on this one. We'll do it some other time, but
Yeah.
Rose was on a flight somewhere in Australia. Unplugged the Wood had a had an evening medical exam, actually, that I was like, wow, they're open late anyway. And then Abe got sick. Doug's Doug's busy at the stock
Doug's
show. So
chasing cows.
yeah, he yes, he is. Uh,
With
either
a
that
probably with a little ukulele in his back pocket. Have you ever been to one of his ukulele jams?
Oh, you mean at the Denver ukulele community?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fun. Yeah.
The first time I met Doug, like, I'd heard about him on the show a million times, and then I showed up for one of his his jams, and he has this ukulele that's maybe 6 inches big. Have you
Yeah.
seen this thing?
I don't know. He's got so many of them. I don't know which one he had.
And he
Is
would
it the
take this.
electric one?
No, it's little. It's not even a real ukulele, but he plays it like it is, and he pulls it out of his back pocket. He's like, "Who's ready for a little ukulele?"
A little ukulele.
Yeah.
Wah, wah, wah.
Oh, it was just wonderful.
He is quite the unique character, and
Yeah.
that's why I love having him on the show. What else here? Prep. Oh, so
Well,
go ahead.
she also asked about your theme song
Ah,
at the beginning of OokTown. I have to say that I love that song too.
oh, thanks.
I know the story, but I want you to tell it.
Okay, well, it actually is two songs. One of them is recorded by the band Bookham Dano, and it's a solo that I did in one of the songs, and so I love using that one, And then the second one is another just an extended play EP that I did, and it's the song is called "Theme from an Imaginary Spy Movie." Gosh, I can't even remember it now, but it's that really heavy one. It's bomb, bomb, that kind of thing. And so I put them both together because I wanted to, one featuring the ukulele and one more to give it excitement. But, on the web here, we have to be careful for using, if we use other copyrighted material, like if you use someone else's song, that's not good. So that's why I recorded it myself. So yeah, tip to all those people out there. Yeah, just record it and record it yourself. Make sure it's you have the copyrights to it, and then put it into your show. So there you go. So you could, like, your song, you could record it, and then it saves a little time and it makes it more consistent. But you can record it and then put it in as a bumper later on, or even they have these things where you can push a button and it'll start playing during the show, right? And you can record that, and then you've got it queued up, and you don't have to worry about it.
I
So
worry
that
about adding anything. Like, I don't want to edit. I'm lazy like that.
Oh, I am all over that. Yeah, yeah. And she asked about that. Is about what are they editing? I try and it depends on what kind of podcast you're doing, right? If you're kind of have a set list of topics that you want to talk about, which people do, which is great, right? And then you go through that, and then you kind of edit it down to take out the ums and ahs and all that kind of good stuff or bad stuff, whatever you want to call it, which is which is great when you're kind of want to focus in on a topic and make it as digestible and quickly accessible. But these kind of things where you're interacting and it's more spontaneous is like, I don't see the point of editing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't either. I don't want to get involved in it. That's the reason I haven't recorded my intro and I just do it live every time. Because then
Right.
that way I don't have to make sure that that sound file is somehow at the right volume and pitch and
Right.
whatever all's involved in that. Like the effects on Audacity, there's like 25 things. And
Right, right,
I only know 2 of them. So I
right.
I just keep it super simple.
Yeah, and that's cool, right?
Yeah.
And in a way, I try and do the same thing with Reaper. So I use a Reaper, and it's a very inexpensive, very powerful recording thing. But I have it all set up in a template, and I bring it up, right? And so I don't have to think. I don't have to redo it. It's just bring up that template file, and I'm set to start recording. And they in fact, in this file, in this template that I have, you can't hear it or I don't play it, but the theme song is in there, so it's all queued up and ready. So when the only thing I do for editing is the beginning bumper, right, and
Yeah.
the ending bumper, where I go ahead and come up with the name of the show, do a little quick intro, kind of make it fun, come up with a fun title, and that's the extent of my whatever editing and so forth. So hopefully that gives some idea for you guys out there of what to do. Tips for a good podcast. What do you think are good tips?
I think being present with your interviewee, if it's a kind of conversation like you and I are having, and preparing, having a list of questions is not a
Mm-hmm.
bad thing.
Mm.
It has happened a few times on our show where everything's going great. We're chatting before we hit record, and then you hit record and your guest freezes.
Oh, really?
Yes, like panic ensues.
No
And
kidding.
yes, you've done a sound check and everything's good. And then they're starting to whisper instead of talking loud enough. I mean, they're really like starting to fade. And so if you've got
Wow.
that list of questions and they've read through them, then
Right.
they know what's coming and like you can kind of help get them back into the room. Like
Oh,
it just sort of leave their bodies a little bit out of fear of
wow.
being recorded. It's like stage fright, right? For podcasting.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I guess the people I've chosen, and I kind of do that either unconsciously or consciously. I want to make sure that they have some background and experience in ukulele or performing. Like, you're a natural here. I had no doubt you would do fine.
Yeah, but baristas are not all performers.
I never thought of that.
Yeah,
That is very.
some of them are very shy and they're great listeners.
Oh, great list, of course. I
Yes,
bet you like a bartender at a pub, probably.
exactly. Or a
Mm,
hairstylist.
yeah. Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Can I talk a little bit about Rocky Mountain Ukulele Orchestra's concert?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's really what I do not want to miss. I don't want everyone missing this. If you're in the Denver area, even if you're not, this is a good chance to come to Denver on May the 4th be with you.
Mm.
And on May the 7th, we've got 2 shows in this semester. It's all Disney music. I think Gary probably doesn't want me telling you what our repertoire includes, but I will say that Mary Poppins is in there. And there are
Mm.
some favorites that you will recognize and tap your toe to. His whole goal is to put an earworm in our ears for the rest of the week to make us practice our ukuleles.
Nice.
Yeah. We currently have 83 members, I think.
Yeah, that's
That's
huge.
that number is moving constantly, but in general, I think we are the largest orchestra in the state of Colorado. Like we're bigger than the symphony.
Oh, you're bigger than the symphony.
Yes, and
Really?
have been for a while, but there's room for like 17 more people. So
Yeah.
if you're at all inclined and you have Monday nights free and want to come to Lakewood, they will make you feel so welcome. You'll wonder why you didn't show up sooner.
Wow, I didn't know that they're getting that big. That is
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
apparently when we get to 100, there won't be enough room for us on the stage, so that's why we are cutting it off at 100.
okay. Wow. And that's at the, where do you guys perform at?
Well, we're
The
performing at the historic Grant Avenue building on the 4th from 2 to 4:30 p.m. And then the really fancy schmancy show in a, on a beautiful stage that's lit with microphones and all that jazz is at Lakewood Cultural Arts Center, and that one's on the 7th of May from
okay.
7 to 9:30 p.m. And you
Okay.
can get your tickets online for that.
And you have the link to, which is I really appreciate you gave us the link. So if they go to the ukuleleorchestra.org,
Yes.
will they get to be able to get to everything?
Yeah, they'll see everything there. That's and also a location where you can read about what it is to be an orchestra member, and that we meet at the Green Mountain United Methodist Church in Lakewood, and all the
Yeah.
details you need to know about what's involved in being in the orchestra. And there's a calendar there, so if you just want to see what ukulele events are going on in Denver,
Mm-hmm.
Gary keeps a very thorough calendar, so you can learn when Bug, the Boulder Ukulele Group, is meeting, and when the Denver Uke Community is meeting, and like anything that's shaken in the libraries, he's posting it. So if you
Oh,
know of
awesome.
something in the Denver area that's not on that calendar, look him up and send him, links to whatever your events are too.
Cool. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, he's been pretty good about, cross-pollinating with the other ukulele groups, and we try and I think everyone tries to do that too, so that Bug will tell people about the Rocky Mountain Ukulele Orchestra, Duck, and Fort Uke, and vice versa. Which is,
Mhm.
by the way, another thing that I want to mention again, is that I think it would be great to cross pollinate. So if there's, I really uh, want to be able to get on, you know, uh, the Rose's Ukulele Highway podcast one day, just so I can, be present there, um, be introduced to her audience, but at the same time, get my audience connected with her. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think that is one of the best ways to network, is to have each other on our podcasts. You mentioned that's kind of something that people talk about a lot on starting your own podcast, right?
Yeah, because your circle of people is larger and different than my circle of people, but there's always some overlapping interests on some level.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not a zero sum game. It's not like, you know, I'm going to steal their audience or they're going to steal my audience, but rather, I really believe that if we're on each other's show, we're going to increase the size of our audiences, right? And um, have people have more choices. And hey, if they enjoy listening to someone else's podcast, all the better.
Mhm.
All right. Let's see. So, synergies from what kind of podcast? Oh, any goals for you for your podcast?
Um, we want to do 50 episodes the first year.
Wow, that's
I know.
that's ambitious.
I can't remember if you told me this or you said this in your podcast or I read it somewhere, but they were saying that whoever it was advising me that it takes about 60 episodes before your audience starts talking back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we crossed our 1,000th play. So it becomes
Great.
a game.
Wow.
Like the more episodes you put out, and you've got maybe like we've got right at 84 listeners that are loyal. Like they
Mm-hmm.
download the podcast immediately as soon as I release it. Um, so as that starts to expand and you gain a listener, they're going to want to listen to all of your podcasts. And so you get 15 plays out of that one listener.
You're right, right, right.
Right. So I think the way to expand it is to have more episodes. And sure enough, there's enough baristas around, for us to have somebody every week.
Cool.
And that's what we aim for.
And that is, even though I said that, that's a lot, but the other podcasters say, yeah, once a week is about right. Once a month is about the minimum. Although there are other long. Hey,
Hey, there's
Doug.
a cowboy.
How's it going?
Doug, you
Howdy.
look the part, my friend.
I feel the part. Yeah, I got the bolo tie.
Yes.
Gerald.
What? Oh, for right, Gerald. Did
Did he
he?
really send you one?
Oh no! So last month, Gerald was talking about how he had an aunt that thought he was a bluegrass guy, and so every Christmas he would get a bolo tie or a big belt buckle or something
Yeah.
from her.
And it was addressed to George, right?
Yeah.
She couldn't remember his
So,
name either.
But see, this pin for the last, so the National Western Stock Show is 113 years old now, and 117. Yes, one of those two numbers. There are lots of numbers, but every year they've given out a pin as kind of your pass on to the grounds. And
Really?
last year, I had it on my jacket, and I was walking back onto the grounds carrying a speaker, and the security guy said, "Oh, where's your pass?" And I looked down, and I had changed jackets and was wearing a different jacket. I was like, well, I didn't really bring the speaker just to bring it to stock show. And he's like, well, I can't let you on grounds without a pass. And so after that, I made my pass this year into a bolo tie. So
Is that really your pass, or is it that's just a bolo tie?
yeah, that's really it. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, it is. Oh, wow. That's a great idea. A bolo tie pass. Oh.
But yeah, it's been a long 16 days.
Yeah. This isn't this like the last day of the stock show?
Thankfully, yes.
So where are we now? Because there's Farmyard Follies,
Oh,
stock dog trials, top hogs of the Wild West.
Yep, Top Hogs, the fabulous performing hog guy.
What?
If you look at Top Hogs, he's been on America's Got Talent, and
No way.
those are very, very. So I have done sound for a performing pig act. So that's one of those things that ends up on my resume. So. Yeah, I do not play ukulele that much during stock show, but I'm working on that too.
Wow, but you've done the sound for
Maybe you can get the pigs to play the ukuleles.
That would be awesome. That's what we're all hoping for. But yeah. And,
wow. So they let you take a break, and I'm so glad that you're here. We're a lot of the guests that I want to get on here had either a medical appointment or got sick, and so I'm glad you're here.
We are survivors.
Yeah, we're survivors here.
Well, unfortunately, I've got I've got an intern this year and a stagehand that's working with me, and so I said, okay, you guys go off and clean up that stuff over there, and I'll be right back with you. So I can't stay long, unfortunately.
Okay. All right.
But I can tell you that I've been listening to Brandy continuously since the last podcast.
Nice.
Because Brandy, she's a fine girl.
Yeah. She is such a good wife. She would be. Hey, and here's an interesting part is I just did that again. I put the earworm in some people's ear the other night because I performed it again, and had them sing the chorus and everything like that. So there you go. More people are going to be oh, look at this product placement. By the way, Wendy's has not contacted me, so I'm a little disappointed.
Well, I'm working hard for you, so I don't know what more I can do.
I don't know. There you are, because now you've done Pepsi, and one of these days we'll get product placement sponsorship. I'm hoping anyway. All right. Did you have any? You probably didn't get a chance to see the agenda or the questions here. Jody's part of the Rocky Mountain Ukulele Orchestra, by the way.
Yes, indeed. What a great group that is.
Yeah, tremendous.
And she showed us her new Ohana pineapple ukulele, which is gorgeous. Very cool.
I've got my purple Waterman.
Oh, the Waterman. There you go.
Yes, indeed. It's out of tune, but I have it here at my office.
Very good. Go ahead, Jody.
Needs a ukulele at their office.
Absolutely. And the Waterman's a good one. You can bang it up against things and not feel bad about it.
Exactly. Nice, filthy office that's just piled with junk. But,
That's all right. That's interesting. I haven't visited your office there. I did get to go by there a couple times, but haven't visited your office because that's where you hear the
super exciting. I've got calendars and Star Wars posters and pictures of my children.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's it's actually a very nice big office that I like a lot.
It is. Man, you must carry some weight over there, huh?
I carry weight everywhere. Oh,
whoa!
Exactly.
I just teed that one up for you.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate it.
Well, before you go, anything else? Anything you want to give a shout out to or have us talk about?
Oh, and there was some I'm so tired.
No, I can imagine. I mean, you were tired last month too. Because what was last month? What
last month we did it on like the 29th or the 28th or something like that.
There was like you had to work like 12-hour or something days or something really.
I started New Year's Day was my last day off, and I've worked 14 to 16 hours every day since then. So,
wow, dude,
I'll be happy. And we've got the Colorado motorcycle show next week. So,
wow,
it rolls. It just keeps rolling right along. But
literally rolling.
But yeah, it's a good gig, and I like it. But anyway, I did want to say hi and have a good rest of your broadcast. And
thanks.
Aloha.
Yeah, in advance. Thank you. Hey, so have fun with the stock dog trials, top hogs, draft horse, mule and donkey show, whatever you have coming up.
And the if you ever get a chance to come down, the stock dogs are the last Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it is so cool watching those dogs herd those cows and sheep.
Is that what they? Oh, I love those. Those are amazing.
Is it mostly border collies?
They're dogs.
Oh, they're just dogs.
I'm a little bit better than. Oh, that looks like a cow.
So you're not quite sure if they're border collies or not. So is what you're saying?
There's
they're dogs.
They're all dogs. I'm pretty sure.
All right. All right, we'll go with that. I would love to see that. That would be pretty cool to watch. And there's some friends of mine that they make the annual. No. That they make the annual trip with the family, the whole family, down to the stock show. I mean, this is like a tradition for them. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's it has so much history, and there are so many neat things that happen in those 16 days that I'm just by the time I get to the end of it, it's just like must mix performing pig performance. But yeah, it's awesome. Anyway, aloha.
Thanks for joining us, Doug. It's great to see you. All right. I'm going down the list here, seeing if we talked Palindrome. Oh, you're in the rock orchestra too. Which is
I just joined choir. That. It's a choir, yeah.
Choir.
So I don't know if you know the band Face. They're an a cappella group in Boulder. They're doing national tours now. And so they've got an Academy of Music, and this is their inaugural choirs that they're starting. There's one in Broomfield, one Arvada. I can't remember where a third location is. And I just found it last Wednesday online and said, I'll sign up for that. So I'm going to go to my first rehearsal this Tuesday in Broomfield.
Wow. Did you have to audition for that, or is it an open?
There's a lot of community choirs work this way where you don't have to audition, but you need to have some level of skill
Sure.
You'll know pretty soon if you're not cut out for it. But I've sung in many choirs over the years.
Oh, wow. Great. Well, I mean, they're gonna be at Red Rocks. I mean, are you gonna perform with them?
Well, that's sort of what drew me into it. If you join the choir and you don't get kicked out, so hopefully I won't,
Okay.
then by July 10th, Face is doing a show at Red Rocks, and you get to be on stage with them.
Wow.
And I mean, I would love to say I've performed at Red Rocks. Who
Well, I
wouldn't?
know. Right?
Who wouldn't?
Exactly. I would love that.
Join
It's
the
a little
choir.
well, it's a little far to commute, really, from
I
Fort
know.
Collins. If they had something like that, that would be really cool. Congratulations, and I hope you have a blast on July. I hope hope you can I hope you don't get kicked out. And
Me too. We're doing Bohemian Rhapsody as one of our songs.
oh, no kidding. Oh my gosh, that is like a
No.
workout
That's how they got me.
with the Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes.
Oh, and then I'll mention to our audience that you have a clogging video on YouTube that kind of went viral, over 286,000 views. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I don't know that it's viral because I think I posted it in like 2010 or something. A friend of mine who's an opera singer was going to be in a play where her character she was playing was a woman from Tennessee who like finds her roots and goes back to her old home place, and she wanted to dance on the porch to the fiddle tune being played. And so she knew I've been a clogger for years, and she asked me if I would make this little instructional video for some basic dance moves. So literally just click record and I'm like, "Hey Teresa, here it goes." And the next thing you know, everybody's watching it.
That's cool.
And I would, people would ask me, how do you clog? And I would just like Google myself, like learn to clog in 5 minutes, and it would pop up. And then I started seeing the numbers get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the last time before I monetized it, the last time I Googled it, my actual link was like 10 items down. So there are all these old time music and dance communities linking to my
Wow.
video. And I was
No
like,
kidding.
I think I need a little ad on this. So I think I've made about $200 on it.
Wow.
Just in ad revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a great story. And I'm
it's
glad.
people all over the world watching it.
It's amazing. And now clogging, is that what tradition is that from?
It's an Appalachian folk dance. And it really is one of the most beautiful, authentically American dances that we have. And it's largely made fun of. And that's okay. With great things, there is laughter. And so we dance only to live music. So there's no like Billy Ray Cyrus or Justin Timberlake involved in our performances. When I danced with the Apple Chill Cloggers, we had the formal skirts that were, about, I don't know, 3 or 4 yards of fabric in the skirt. It's that large.
Wow.
So when you twirl, the skirt goes up and you're wearing petty pants underneath. But we did lots of high kicks and spins and twirls and like square formations, like square dance patterns. And it's guys and girls dancing in couples, and sometimes it's a cappella. And it's just a real wonderful dance. We use tap shoes, and not with the jingles, but just like a solid tap shoe. And it's a fun dance. It's percussing with your feet. It's like being your own little drummer.
It seems like it was a little bit like tap dancing.
It is, except it's easier. So with the basic tap dance stance, your heels are off the ground. With clogging, your heels are on the ground. So it's much easier. It's a more grounded form. And it draws on dance patterns from Native Americans that settled in the Appalachian Mountains, the Irish settlers, the British, and the Africans. So
that all mix is in the mix, huh?
Yes. And we do this We do this great performance. When we are hired by museums and schools, where we sort of break down the basic step, which is what you learn in my video, and I tell you what the roots of it are, and we sort of personify each part of that dance move as, I'm the Native American, and this is what I do. I dance on the beat. I'm an African American and I dance in a syncopated rhythm, and then we show you how to do that. And then the kick comes from the Irish, and then the combination comes from the British. And so it's a very simplified way to explain it.
And there you go. That's a perfect perfect example of America, because we are so we people don't understand we are a nation of immigrants, and both indigenous and from other countries. I mean that kind of personifies it so well. That
Yeah.
dance, I didn't realize how many cultures were mixed into just clogging. We should get Erin McGrain onto your video, because do you remember she
Yeah, I showed her the video after I
oh,
heard
you
your
did.
podcast. Yeah, and
That's perfect.
they were swamped at Wonderstruck Ukulele Academy. They were so busy,
Yeah,
just
I'm
like really
sure.
trying to make it so perfect for everyone, and they succeeded. But I
Yeah.
kept telling her, I was like, if you've got 5 minutes, I can teach you to clog, and just forget tap dancing. Tap dancing is so hard. It's like trying to learn guitar when you're 50. Like, pick up the ukulele. It's approachable. It's easy, just like
Yeah,
clogging.
yeah. Just
Yeah.
clogging is the equivalent of a ukulele. All right.
It is in a lot of ways. It's simple. Anyone can do it.
All right. That's cool. Well, we oh, so there you go. I forgot to mention. Okay, hey people, I just want to take a break here. It's great to have our guest on, Jody Lee of Baristas Unfiltered. Great name for a podcast. Um, and what's your next podcast going to be?
I think it's Gary Ugert, February 7th.
Yeah, Gary, February 7th. There it is.
Yeah.
He used to work in Starbucks at the beginning. That is awesome. Say hello to Gary for me.
I totally will.
So great to have you on, to have your perspective, even though you're not a ukulele podcaster. You do play the ukulele and you do have a podcast, so that counts. And I want to say thank you so much to my patrons out there. This is how the show gets supported. So thank you so much for listening, spreading the word, and supporting us here. And that's one of the best things, is that if we can get the word out, and I think we're up to 1,200 downloads per episode. I'm going for 2,000 in 2019. So if we can get 2,000 downloads, I think that's going to be a really good um, a goal, so that we can continue to spread the word of the ukulele, peace, love, and ukulele. So thank you so much. And if you want to, please support the OokTown Podcast, so that I can cover the expenses here, for guests on the podcast. As I always mention, that, we get them microphones if they need it. It helps support the miscellaneous software and hardware that I upgrade. I need to. I'm still working on upgrading my website. I just want to simplify it and maybe get a new logo. So anyone out there who wants to, maybe has a good line on someone to do a new logo and graphics for the OokTown Podcast, send me a link. Maybe I'll hire them. It'd be great. So become a patron, please. Go to patreon.com/OokTown. Sign up for whatever you want. It's so great to have your support out there. Thank you so much for being a patron, and also being a listener. If you don't necessarily want to support the podcast by putting a pledge in, another really great way is share the podcast. Let other people know that this exists, because it is as you've heard so many times, this is a great resource for people, both beginners and intermediate, and just people who love the ukulele. So tell them about the OokTown Podcast, OOKTOWN/podcast. Send them that link, and they can start listening in. Okay, well, let's wrap this up. And you had on your list Wonderstrucks, and it's great to have another Wonderstruck alumni. What did you want to talk about in regard to Wonderstruck?
Well, like a lot of listeners who have met Aaron and Jeff, Victor and Penny, and Danielle ate the sandwich. When you hear them on the podcast, they're just extremely nice people. They're extremely talented, but they're kind. And so meeting them in person, I can tell you, is just, it's alarming how kind and how brilliant. And I mean, you're like, are these people for real? Like, did they just get sent straight from heaven? They are just they give you so much of their energy in the
Mm-hmm.
time that you spend with them, and not like they have these 5 talking points and these are the 5 things we're going to discuss. It's not at you, it's cultivated with you. And so they take as much time with somebody like me who doesn't even know how to talk into a microphone as a vocalist, a single vocalist, as they do with someone like this incredible woman we were discussing, Julia Kirkwood, you know,
Mm-hmm.
who comes up and just nails it. They had just as much time to help her with whatever she wanted help with as they did us, like me being an us newbie. So they're just some of the best people, and you will learn heaps. Like no matter where you are in your process, if you're at the very beginning like me, or if you're experienced, they're just phenomenal people.
It is, and it probably spills over into podcasting too, I would guess. Just how to speak into a microphone is so
Mm-hmm.
important, and some of the just the basics of it. Speaking of nice, I think that was one of the things that I was so pleased about is you get to uh, be evaluated by them, and it's so antithetical to what you see on things like American Idol.
It's nothing like that.
It's nothing like that. And sure, you sometimes these people need to be told the hard truth of maybe a, a career as a singer is not your forte. I get that, and at the same time, even if it's not, uh, they do such a wonderful job. I think that's probably one of the most valuable things that I took away. Not I didn't I wasn't able to come to all of the workshop, but I love so much being able to perform and then getting the feedback from them. It was just gold to get that.
Absolutely. And they're so kind. Like they get up on stage with you and they'll tell you, this is where your face needs to be with the microphone. Okay, that vocal that you're doing, I think you've got more on this one word. Let's work on this one word.
Mm-hmm.
And so they give you actionable advice.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, then they mentioned to me, do a little bit more of an intro on that song,
Mm-hmm.
and that, and then I love even the little nuances of, hey, say thank you after the certain portion of
The
the
applause.
applause. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I never thought of that. That's a great idea, because if you say it too early, it just gets lost, and it really does fit better because then the audience hears you say thank you. I think is
Mm-hmm.
what it is. Yeah, and it doesn't distract from them, showing you appreciation. Anyway, really good practical
Go.
advice. Yeah,
Everybody
go.
go. And the thing I remember I talk about this part all the time with anybody who will listen that tells me they have an imposter syndrome going on. We talk a lot about like, do I deserve to be here? Do I deserve this job? Do I deserve whatever it is that's good that's happening that you're doubting? And
Mm-hmm.
Erin was talking about that, and she said, how many of you feel like you should really be here today? And hands kind of went up, and
Yeah.
I definitely kept mine down. I'd only been playing 9 months, and she was like, how many of you feel like you don't deserve to be here? And all the hands went up. I think this was before you got there, Stuart. And I looked
It
around
was.
and I was like, oh, these talented people, like they're worried about their belonging here too. Like this imposter syndrome is something that we all have to face. And then she goes into, this is how you face it. And she gives you all of those clues. And
Mm.
it has improved my life immeasurably, even not just with the ukulele, but even outside of it. So
Wow.
it is a great workshop.
Yeah, I missed that part. I think that's would be valuable about the imposter syndrome.
And it
'Cause
was
yeah,
earlier in the day.
yeah, and I can kind of see that, because it's like, well, do I really deserve to be here?
Yeah, because I
That
don't
kind
know
of
how to
thing.
play ukulele really. I don't know how to sing. I've never done an open mic night, you know.
Well, I've been playing ukulele for a long time, and excuse me, and I still think, gosh, I'm not a pro. I'm not that great, and do I really deserve to be hired and things like that? And I think it
Yes
would have
is
been
the
good.
answer.
Yes
Yes
is
is
the
the
answer.
answer. It's always the answer.
The answer is
And
always.
and she really helps you get to that place in your mind where you feel that yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, they really have a lot of good energy around it. Yeah. So they are still planning their next one. I don't know of when the next one is going to be, but we'll have a link to the Wonderstruck Academy in the show notes. So go ahead and check them out and see when the the next one is going to happen. Wow. I suddenly got a tickle in my throat, so this is probably a good time to wrap things up. All right, what anything else about the Wonderstruck Academy you want to talk about?
Everyone just go.
Everyone go. I can.
Yeah, I don't want to give away all their secrets, but everyone can learn something there.
Even if you give away the secrets, it's just the experience is really the biggest thing, because you can't really get that experience by just hearing us. You got to participate, and that's one of the best things is when you can participate in there.
You'll be starstruck at Wonderstruck.
Right, the good one. Starstruck at Wonderstruck. Okay, so what's coming up for you? Let's wrap this up and get you on your way.
Concerts are coming up May 4th and May 7th, and podcasts are coming up, and I guess that's enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, if there's an opportunity, I'm not a barista, so I can't be a barista per se, but if there's a way to incorporate me on your show, please invite me, and we can cross-pollinate that way.
We're totally going to do that.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Well, Jody, so great to have you. And it was great to have Doug. He's off back at the National Western Stock Show. It's the last day. He is just a busy dude. I mean, he's been, as you can probably tell from the last couple podcasts, this is one of the busiest times of year, which is surprising, because this is like the winter months, but this is, I guess this is when all the indoor kind of shows happen. And so people get out of the cold, and good on him.
That's right. He's good at it.
He is. All right. Okay. So support the show. Go to patreon.com/OokTown. And with that, I will say that as we do on every show, I'll count to 3 and let's say aloha. You ready?
I'm so ready for this.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Aloha.